Hello, my name is Brittany and I'm an admissions representative with Kansas State University Online. I wanted to start tonight by thanking everyone for joining us here to learn more about our online Master of Arts in Teaching program. I'm joined by the program director, Dr. Tom Vance, who is going to spend the next 30 or so minutes giving us a presentation about this program, and then we'll spend the last 10 to 15 minutes answering questions. Throughout the duration of this presentation, we will be monitoring the chat feature and answering questions as they are being asked. Some of your questions may be saved until the end for Dr. Vance to answer. If you could now please take a few seconds to locate the chat feature and answer the question you'll see on the screen, as we would love to learn a little bit more about you. I will give you a moment to do so now. As those chats are coming in, I also wanted to let you know that we will be sharing a recording of this presentation following the webinar. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Vance now.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on Kansas State University's MAT program. It seems hard for me to believe 5 years ago, I was in the department chair's office talking about this crazy idea that I had for a program, and here we are 5 years later, and on a seemingly innocuous Tuesday evening, 54 of you have logged into this webinar to learn more about becoming a teacher through Kansas State's MAT. Before we get started with some particulars, I just want to take a moment and thank Brittany and Diane and everybody at Global Campus and the entire MAT team for helping spread the word about the MAT program. And really, it's a benefit not only for Kansas State or the students that join our program, but it's really a benefit for elementary and secondary schools in Kansas, throughout the country, even internationally. Now we have students internationally where we can help adult career changers, people that already have degrees, transfer into teaching. So again, I'm going to speak for maybe, I always say like 15 minutes. It always ends up, because I'm a teacher and I like hearing myself talk a little bit. It always ends up taking longer than that, but I want to be clear, and I certainly want to save as much time as possible to answer your questions. Let me also say that I'll share my telephone number as well as my email address. And if you have any other questions after this, maybe you want to ask one-on-one rather than a whole group setting, you can feel free to reach out to me. So first of all, before we start talking about YK State, I know all of you have options. You're smart adult consumers. And so you've checked out other online programs. In fact, if you haven't, I encourage you to do so, because I think that we've built the program with you particularly in mind, and we built it with the variables that we know that are most concerning to students. Before I do that, let me say that this is sort of an innovative program because, like I said, 5 years ago, we would get phone calls from people like you, and they'd say, yeah, I have a degree in social work or sociology or psychology or accounting or my law degree or whatever, but I really want to be a teacher. And we'd say, yeah, you can, but you need to move to Manhattan, Kansas, and you need to redo an undergraduate degree. And that takes about 3 years. And yeah, that's cool, right? I mean, you're willing to do that. And of course, most people weren't. So we were missing out on this segment, the segment of really talented people like you, who just needed a practical pathway, a convenient, cost-effective, practical pathway to the classroom. And so we came up with the MAT. So why K-State? And again, I encourage you to shop around. Actually, it's not 12 months, it's really 11 months. You start in the middle of May. I don't know when the exact start date is this year, I should, but it's probably May 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, somewhere in there. And you're done with the entire program by the first week or two in April, depending upon how spring break falls and that kind of thing. So one of the most significant things about the MAT program is time. When we did our market research on the program, uh, people just didn't want to go to school for another 5 years or something to earn their teaching degree when they already had an undergraduate degree. So that's one thing. It's 11 months, really. We say 12 just because it's a round number. It's a year. Um, we also did a little cost analysis of other similar online programs. And for example, and you'll never hear me throw anyone else under the bus, but for example, and I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm just stating a fact. USC, they're a great teacher education institution. They offer a very similar program to this, but theirs costs $54,000 or something like that, 52 or $54,000 for the same degree and certification. And if you shop around, there might be one or two online programs that are cheaper than we are, not much, but you also have to consider other variables like time and convenience and quality into your decision making. Our program is also convenient in the sense that you never have to come to K-State. You don't have to come and spend a summer with us or 2 months with us or anything. Everything is online. All of the online courses are asynchronous. In other words, you don't have to log in. Everybody's not required to log in at 7 p.m. Central Time or something, but rather there are due dates for everything, and you work on assignments and projects and discussion boards and lesson plans and mini units and all the things that you do in the program. You work on those things when you have a chance and before the due date. You also do field experiences. One of the real benefits of the K-State MAT program, you do field experiences, practical work that you do in elementary or secondary schools. You do that in the schools of your choice in your local community. We ask all of our students that are admitted and accepted to give us, their top three choices of schools. And then we reach out to the schools on your behalf and make arrangements in those schools for your field experiences. And schools really like our program. They get some experienced, mature. I'm not dogging out our undergraduates at all. There's some great undergraduate students we have as well, but schools really like our MAT program and getting students from the MAT. And then, this is a quality program. If you search around, you'll see that Kansas State University and our College of Education, and in particular, our teacher education, are well known throughout the region and really well known nationwide. We are award winning across a variety of variables, but that's not the part, in my estimation, that really makes for the quality. We have great staff and faculty and all that stuff, and a great library filled with lots of resources and all those kind of typical things. But I think one of the things that's overlooked in a lot of programs is the quality of the students that are coming to a particular program. We have, even in this latest cohort, we have 200 students in this year's cohort. We have a PhD in physics that is taught at a university that's always wanted to teach younger children and is going back to school to get her MAT and teacher certification in elementary education. We've had architects, lawyers, accountants, successful business people that, in essence, have been successful enough that they could spend the last 10 years of their working life doing something that they always wanted to do, but financially maybe couldn't afford to do, and that's teach. So you'll be rubbing elbows with some really great classmates that will challenge you and your ideas about teaching, learning, students, and all the rest. I do want to say a word or two about our philosophy of teacher education as well. Some teacher education programs, and again, not pointing to anyone particularly, but some of them try to fit all teachers in all environments into a particular box. And so they make you do certain things, and it almost reduces teaching to following a script. Yuck. That's terrible. I hate that. One of the things that's thrilling and exciting about teaching is you get to be the king or queen of your particular domain, and you get to be the creative genius that comes up with all the organization and activities and motivation for a particular group of students to bring ideas and skills and dispositions to life in your classroom. So we follow that model at K-State. We provide you with guidelines and best practices and common formats and principles and learning theories and motivational strategies and best practices. We give you all of that, but we say ultimately it's up to you to put the right pieces together for you and your personality, you and your particular school, you and your particular students to be the best possible educator and teacher you can be. So I'm proud of our program, and I do one other thing before we dive into some curricular stuff here. You hear 200 students, and we'll probably have 250 students this year in this next cohort that begins in May, thanks to awesome admissions people like Brittany and Diane and some colleagues over in the College of Ed. And you might think, I'll just be lost in the shuffle of 250 students. Don't think that. It's not true. K-State prides itself on kind of being friendly, accessible, personalized, student-centered, individualized. And we carry that through with a large online program that reaches out to 35 different states and 5 foreign countries, and who knows what it will be in next cohort. How do we do that? Our primary method is we assign each of you a teaching assistant at the beginning of your program. Those teaching assistants are veteran, experienced, dynamite master teachers who also happen to be graduate students in our doctorate program at K-State. So we have, how should I say, we have a little authority and power over them, but they get a price reduction of their classes at K-State by helping students in the MAT become great teachers. We capped those off at 10 students. So you'll get to know your teaching assistant very well. They'll get to know you very well. You'll get to know the people in your small group very well. And you'd be surprised. You'll get to know a lot of the folks that you're going to class with. Oftentimes, our students make a Facebook page and they share ideas. There's features inside of our learning management system where you can communicate with one another, ask each other questions, and so forth. So for all those reasons, we think the K-State's MAT program is competitive, at least with others that you might choose. Okay, so here is the sequence, the scope and sequence, which is a little teaching vocabulary for you tonight during this orientation of the elementary program. And you can see that during the spring intersession, really it's, whatever you want to call it, it runs from May 15th to the first week in June. So call it early summer or spring intersession or whatever you want to call it, but that's when it is, as well as these other two summer classes. By the way, I'm the teacher for 702 curriculum instruction and assessment. And so these three classes are by way of prepping you for the fall, winter, and spring sessions where you're really getting down to the level of actually implementing your ideas. So these three classes are really designed to enhance your understanding of various issues about students, about schools, about curriculum, about instruction, about assessment, about classroom management, about the job of being a teacher. We want you to be able to perceive, analyze, judge, and ultimately act in the learning environment, whether it's before, during, or after teaching, in the best possible ways that you can. Now, you might think, that sounds so esoteric, academic, even. Isn't it funny that we use the term academic to be synonymous with meaningless? Makes me feel bad as a professor, but we do that. But it's not. That's not just esoteric or academic. How you perceive and analyze and judge and act in a particular environment is dependent upon how much you know and the skills you have and the things that you value and feel the most as a teacher. So we call that a framework, an edifice, whatever you want to call it. And you all have one now, and we value that. We want to build on that. And it's kind of like, my father-in-law's a carpet and tile layer in Lincoln, Nebraska. And he's a great carpet and tile layer. He lays carpet and tile in the best, nicest houses in Lincoln. He's never had to advertise because his reputation as a carpet and tile layer is impeccable. And when he comes into a room, he automatically notices nuances about the carpet and tile. We might be in a hotel someplace and he'll say, "Gee, Tom, can you look at that over there? Can you believe that? How can they get away with stuff like that?" And I'll say, "Marion, I have no idea. That's awful. I don't even know to be honest with you, what the hell he's even talking about." Because again, he's got this an advanced framework of carpet and tile laying, just like we want to help you have an advanced framework of ideas and skills and dispositions that will help you become the very best teacher you possibly can be. So then you do methods classes and a 64-hour practicum in a local school in the fall. You have a little winter session course here that actually starts next week. It starts on Monday and goes until the second week in January. And Dr. Larson teaches that, and she's excellent at helping you make the transition from these specific methods classes, taking the general ideas of the summer, applying them specifically to your role as a teacher in a particular classroom. And then for elementary students, teaching health, movement, and fine arts is a required class, but it's also the transition class to student teaching, which begins the first day of school in January after the first of the year. So, that varies every year. I don't know what it is this year, but schools generally go back to start second semester January 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that. And so your student teaching is 12 weeks, about 12 weeks. You start that first week in January, you're done the first or second week in April, and it's a full-time job. It is a full-time job. And elementary or secondary, it's a full-time job. You probably won't even be able to work part-time during those 12 weeks. Now, above here, before student teaching, we do have lots of people that do work during their MAT. a lot of people that work in the schools. By the way, if you're a a paraprofessional in the schools right now and you want to do your practicum there, that's probably possible. I mean, you can't you have to be able, they have, the school has to release you to be able to do your field experiences, right? But you can probably do it at that same school. So that's the kind of the, and you do an action research course along with student teaching, and the action research course is built in, kind of integrated with your student teaching experience. People love that. That's taught by Dr. Clark. He's an awesome colleague and does a great job with that class. And then the capstone project is a master's teaching and learning portfolio that you'll know about from your first week of class. You'll know what's expected of you, what the entries are like, what your reflections should look like, what kinds of artifacts you should choose, and those kinds of things. And generally speaking, our students have been very successful on both. I won't take time to differentiate the secondary MAT curriculum other than to tell you that really those first three summer courses are the same. The master's project is listed up here. It could be down where it was with the elementary, but you'll see secondary folks, you do some content stuff if you're social studies or English language arts or mathematics or science or modern languages or agriculture. You need to do some content stuff along with your education classes. And basically for both elementary and secondary, I got to tell you that content matters. The old wives' tale that, to be a teacher you don't really need to know the content that much, that's inaccurate. That's not true. You do need to know enough about what it is that you're teaching to be able to provide good examples and analogies and metaphors, and to think of interesting ideas and ways to approach material. So it's both are important. Both content and process are important to a teacher, right? And don't be a guppy and let somebody dump things into your mind that simply aren't true. Another, I could go off on a tangent, but just to give you another example, people say that memorizing things is a terrible waste of time or thing to do with kids. That's not true. I mean, you can overuse that for sure, but am I glad that I committed to memory my times tables? Yeah. Or the ABCs, or that I committed to memory how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Yes. Am I also glad, even content-wise, that I've committed to memory the kind of the basic story of American history? Yeah, I am. Doggone right, I am. It helps me in all kinds of ways, and I'm just using those as examples. So another thing we try to do is disabuse people of kind of common everyday myths that there are about teaching and learning. I mean, I understand where that idea comes from, that teachers overuse in the past have overused that method, but the truth is that really great teachers use a broad array of strategies and motivation techniques and all kinds of things. So admissions requirements, $65. Uh, but as attendees of the December 8th webinar, Brittany and Diane will tell you how to get an application fee waiver, and we'll pay for that now that you're here. That's worth that. So basically, this webinar, you got paid $65 an hour because we're going to be done before an hour's up. And so it was worth your time tonight. You might want to spread the word. Undergraduate degree, you need about a 3.0 GPA. Unofficial transcripts are okay for the application. We'll eventually need official transcripts. If you have something below a 3.0, don't let that ruin your life. Don't let that stop you from reaching out to old Tom who flunked out of the University of Nebraska when he was 20 years old because the good people at Anheuser-Busch were making an outstanding product in 1986. And so I get it. I understand. And we can work with you down to 265 or something like that, especially if the rest of your application were good. And even if it's below 265, we have other other ways we could deal with that. So if you're below 265 or 3.0, or just want to talk to me about your undergraduate degree, and it can be in anything, right? For elementary, and it can be in anything for secondary. But the secondary folks have the additional requirement of passing the appropriate praxis test. So you have to secondary folks have to pass the content knowledge for the field that you're applying to. And Diane and Brittany and I have all of those numbers and hyperlinks and all that stuff that we can shoot to you. And by the way, the single bet, my daughter's a teacher. She just took the social studies praxis last year. She's a teacher in KCK. And she said, Dad, by far the best thing that I did was spent the 35 bucks from the educational testing center, that website. They say, hey, do you want to do some practice tests, some online computerized practice tests? Get those. It's 35 bucks well spent, because Maddie said that while the exact questions weren't on the test, the concepts were. And even when you miss a question on the praxis, it will come up and say, no, that's not right. And here's why it's not right. And here is what is right. So you kind of learn the concepts that are tested as you're taking the praxis test. Don't say that quickly too many times. But that's just for secondary. Elementary, you do not have to take praxis tests for admission. You do have to take some tests for certification, but we're very good at preparing you for those tests. Our pass rates are 97.5% on both the CIA as well as the content knowledge test for elementary. And secondary folks, if you take my advice and get those praxis tests, you'll be in good shape. Then you respond to 3 interview questions via video. Don't spend a lot of time on that. They're straightforward questions. Why do you want to be a teacher? What value can you add to the lives of kids? Things like that. It's a way for us to put a face with a name. And then you get 3 letters of recommendation, but you don't have to get the letters. You just have to get approval from 3 people. Hey, I'm applying to Kansas State's Master of Arts in Teaching program. Would you be willing to be a recommender? Can I give them your name and email? And then we reach out to them, and they fill out a little rubric on you and how great you are. And then there's a little box for them to add some commentary about you. So it's fairly straightforward. Funding is fun to talk about. There's student loan forgiveness for teachers. You have to teach in a Title I school, but the good news is most schools are Title I schools, not only in Kansas, but really throughout the country. And the ones that aren't, just to be completely honest about things, are more affluent suburban schools where there's not as many free and reduced lunch kids that go to school there. And they make the Title I designation based upon the percentage of free and reduced lunch. Here in I'm in Wamego, Kansas, just sort of a typical small town in Kansas, and we run around 38-40% of our students are free and reduced lunch. And again, it's not, Wamego's not considered rich or poor. It's just sort of standard run of the mill Kansas town. So we have global campus scholarships. Those are, and by the way, the student loan forgiveness is $3,500 a year for every year that you teach in a Title I school, and that's something that you do afterwards to a maximum of 17,500, which is approximately, actually, the cost of the program this year is 15,500 because we waived some global campus fees because of COVID, but I don't know if it'll be like that next year. We have global campus scholarships. Those are needs based, and not everyone that applies gets one. You've got to fill out your FAFSA for both 2020 and 2020-21 for summer financial aid, and 21-22 for fall and spring next year. And but I think we have about 40, in between 40 and 50 MAT students on global campus scholarships right now. And we probably had 100 of the 200 students apply for one. So it's not, it's not like we're dangling a carrot that's impossible to achieve, but you've got to show some needs. And then there might be some specific programs to your state. I'll show you what Kansas is offering on the next slide. But there might be one if you're, in, I don't know, Illinois or New Jersey or somewhere. You might look at your state Department of Education to see if they have something. Inside of Kansas, this is a really great thing, and most people don't know about it. My daughter took advantage of this. You can take advantage of this if you agree to teach in Kansas for 1 year after graduation. They will give you 2217 for the fall semester, 2217 for the spring semester, not for summer for some reason. I don't know. That's a nut I haven't been able to crack yet with the Kansas Board of Regents, but that is incredibly helpful. And again, all you have to do is teach for 1 year after graduation in for elementary teachers in any elementary school. For secondary teachers, it depends upon your content area, but for most of our content areas, secondary content areas, you can do this, but instead of teaching in any Kansas school, you're limited to KCK, Wichita, Topeka, or the western 1/3 of Kansas. And all of this stuff is on the Kansas Board of Regents website, and just reach out to me and I can send you the link to the Kansas Teacher Service Scholarship. But everyone that's planning to teach in Kansas, all elementary teachers planning to teach in Kansas should apply for this. You'll get it. I've never heard of anyone not getting it. And by the way, this is not a K-State only thing. No matter where, I probably shouldn't say this, but you can go to Emporia or Fort Hays or Washburn or Wichita or anywhere, and as long as you agree to teach in Kansas for 1 year after you're done, you can get this scholarship. Okay, can I continue working? The answer is yes, up until student teaching, but that kind of depends upon you. And some people take to teacher education really easily. you know to be honest with you, especially not that I'm dogging anybody out that doesn't have significant experience in the schools, either as a parent or a para or whatever, but people that do know the language, know the lingo, know the culture of schools, and they sort of ease into the MAT program relatively easily. Now, if you don't know all that stuff and you're kind of starting from scratch, you can still do it and you can still be an outstanding teacher, but it may assignments and stuff may take you a little bit longer than the average bear. I've already kind of explained how field experiences work. You'll do 64 hours spread out over 10 or 12 weeks in the fall at a local school, and then 12 weeks of student teaching uh, after that, from January to April. You will get a Kansas license when you're done. No matter where you're living now, you might be living in Louisiana or California or Oregon and want to teach there, which is great. We do it all the time. But you will get a Kansas license first and then transfer your Kansas license to Louisiana, Oregon, Florida, California, wherever. And it's really worked out fairly good. And if you're from out of state and you have other questions, we have a licensing officer, Di Murphy, who can also ask or answer some specific questions. But again, to be clear, you're not using Kansas State University's MAT program to satisfy the teacher education requirements in Michigan or some other state. No, you're getting a full Kansas license through Kansas State's MAT, and that Kansas license then can transfer to other states. Now, what's required of the transfer kind of depends. It varies state to state. Sometimes there's little to nothing to do other than fill out paperwork. Sometimes they ask that, yeah, we'll take the Kansas license, but you've got to do a Louisiana history test or something. But usually the additional requirements, once you have the Kansas license, transferring it to another state is not terribly onerous. And what's more, the vast majority of states let you teach and start to get paid while you're working on the transfer of that license. Um, if you get K6 certification, you can test into uh, almost any other secondary subject area. So you could be licensed in K6, elementary K6, and then test into English language arts 7 through 12, or social studies 7 through 12, or mathematics 7 through 12. The only, or music or art, the only ones that I know that you can't do that with is special education, and I think English language learning. You can't maybe you can even test into ELL now. I think you can, but I know you can't just test into special education. You have to take additional coursework. So, and I've kind of already talked about if you want to teach in another state, how the license transfer things work, and we have a website too that I can send to you that details the reciprocity agreements between Kansas and other states. So again, I've gone on too long. I'm sorry about that. There's 60 of you here. I love it. It's awesome. And I'll turn things over to Brittany. We have 85 chat messages.
Yeah,
Holy.
so I was gonna ask you some of those questions and see if you could answer them for the group, if that sounds all right.
I certainly will. Was I that unclear in my presentation?
Not at all. There's just some
Some smart people.
yeah, and some
Okay.
special circumstances. So
Okay.
um the first question would be for those well, first of all, there are some people who are already currently working as teachers, maybe on like an emergency sub or a long-term sub license. How would that, how would this program work for them and getting,
Certification.
yeah, with getting student teaching hours and all of that as well?
Well, we do that. We do that routinely for elementary students. They had a pilot program, but that pilot program is in limbo right now for elementary teachers, and we don't know if they're going to continue doing that. But we have 20 or so of our 200 MAT students that are in that now. In other words, they're full-time teachers right now and being paid as full-time teachers. And but that program is in limbo, and you're free to contact the Kansas State Department of Education. As soon as they say it's a go, we'll participate in it again, and we certainly want to participate in it again. Our dean, Debbie Mercer, is trying to get the State Department of Education to do it again. So that's for elementary. For secondary, you'll need to reach out to me. There's there are some rules and guidelines for that, and they're different inside of Kansas as compared to outside of Kansas. And so instead of telling you off the top of my head what I know about that, if you're secondary and you want to try to you currently have a teaching position, or you want to try to gain a teaching position and see if you can't do the MAT along with it, reach out to me by email. I'll go ahead and I don't know if yeah, I can just put it in the chat, put my email and cell phone number. And seriously, you can call me anytime, and I'll respond to you, and, or email. And even if it's right after this meeting and you want to talk, that's fine. And so let me hit send there, and there you have it. There's my email and my cell phone number, and you call me during the weekends and the evenings whenever you have a question. Okay, so that wasn't my best response, Brittany. It was a great question, kind of a shaky response. Sorry about that, but I did the best I could. What's the next question?
Does it matter at all if someone has already student taught in a different discipline?
Um, no, it doesn't. One of the things I'm not quite sure what that question's relating to, but maybe you're already a secondary teacher and you want to become an elementary teacher and use the MAT to become certified. Still, that student teaching experience does not count for the MAT, and we take no transfer credits. Part of the deal about doing innovative programs like this, they don't want to let you off the hook so easily, so they make you promise things. And one of the things we had to promise was we wouldn't accept any transfer credit from anywhere, and including student teaching. And so we can't do that. Sorry.
Um, there's the next question is about the master's portfolio, and they're asking if they're the same prompts and number of artifacts as the student teaching portfolio for undergraduate degrees in education at K-State.
Pretty close. A tricky question. They're based upon the same set of standards, the INTAS standards, but we add a couple things to the Master of Arts program, because you're graduate students and you're getting a master's degree. So we add a couple of entries, but mostly the same.
Awesome. And then a quick question about the secondary track. For the modern languages track, do the classes differ from the secondary base classes?
No, the secondary base classes are the same. So you would still do, social foundations, diverse learners, CIA, curriculum instruction assessment, and but you would then do your method, kind of a combo of methods and content classes, beginning actually in the summer. You do one in the summer, and then one in the fall, and one in the intersession. And it's nice because, another misnomer about teacher education is that you can just teach students strategies, and all they need is a handful of tricks, and they too can become great teachers. That's not quite true. Strategies only make sense in the context of teaching content or skills, right? So, so even in the elementary program, we never talk about a strategy in the absence, or we do very little of talking about strategies in the absence of content. And so, so that's the story there. Other questions?
We have someone who took the praxis exam during their undergraduate program in 1997. Would that count, or would they need to retake the praxis?
Jeez, I've never had the praxis from 1997 count. I don't know. Shoot me an email and we can check with Di Murphy. Um, what is this? What is this, Brittany? Did you and Diane conspire to ask me a bunch of questions that I won't know the answer to and make me look foolish in front of 60 new prospective students? Is that what's going on here?
I guess we're just trying to keep you on your
I
toes.
guess so. All right.
The next question is, do you have to teach the year directly after you graduate?
For the Kansas Teacher Service Scholarship, we don't run that, but my suspicion is probably not. I can send you the link to the Kansas Board of Regents, and you can call them and inquire more about that.
Another person is asking if there's any type of program to help them teach in Kansas after completing this program. They aren't sure if there's really a need for Spanish teaching in their region, but they would love to go into that area.
Yeah, and there is a need for modern language teachers, and we do. In fact, I just had a meeting today. K-State and the Kansas State Department of Education combined partner to offer every year the Kansas Teacher Virtual Career Fair, and so yeah, we don't just we try to accommodate your needs from the beginning of the program to job placement, right? And so we'll talk about the certification tests you need, when you need to take them, what you need to do to prepare for them, and how to apply for jobs, and do your resume, and where to look, and all those things. So we don't just leave you hanging. And our success rate is awesome. It's in the low 90s of people in the MAT program are gainfully employed as teachers, 2 years post graduation, and it's high even 1 year post graduation. So
Awesome. Do you know roughly how many students we typically accept into the MAT elementary track?
yeah, of the 200 this year, probably 140 were elementary and 60 were secondary.
Awesome. And can we get some clarification about student teaching requirements and completing those while being a para? Can a person complete their observation hours while being a para? Can they do their student teaching while being a para? What does that look like?
Well, yes and no. You can certainly do them, as I said, at the school in which you're a para right now, but you can't just be a para and do either the fall field experiences or definitely the student teaching experiences. Your school would have to say, okay, we're letting you off Wednesday and Thursday mornings to do your MAT stuff. And you can just be an MAT student and teacher in your classroom and not a para on Wednesdays and Thursdays morning. And if they pay you for that, that's up to you. That's between you and them. It's none of my business, frankly. But for student teaching, you cannot be paid as a substitute or no, that's not true. You can't be classified as a substitute teacher. You have to be the teacher of record or classified as something else. Then you can be paid, and then you can student teach as well. So the direct answer to the question is it's what you are able to work out with the school that you're currently employed. We will allow you to do whatever you work out with them as long as it doesn't break any Kansas laws. And the one Kansas law that we can't break is that you can't be a substitute teacher and be paid as a sub and be a student teacher at the same time. Now you can be the teacher of record and be paid as the teacher of record and be a student teacher at the same time, but not a sub. They have that policy, you can imagine, especially this year, right? Where we're having a hard time trying to find subs, that they just say, oh, we'll make the K-Stater be the sub for the day, pull her out of or pull him out of wherever they're doing their student teaching. And we it's really to protect you, not us. Next question.
We have someone who's wanting to go into the at the secondary level, they would like to teach science. What is a route that they can go to achieve that? Would they first complete the elementary track and then test up, or how would that
That's
work?
that's exactly what you do. You would complete the K-6 MAT program. By the way, science is a part of elementary, right? The four core subject areas of elementary are social studies, which is history and government and what does it mean to be a citizen and that sort of thing. English language arts, mathematics, and science. And elementary teachers, I'm a social studies person, but I'm gonna tell you that not all subject areas were created equally. English language arts, literacy is your bread and butter, elementary teachers. For this particular question, yeah, you'll have a K-6 certification, and then you simply test into whatever secondary science you would like to become certified 7 through 12, and that's the way you do it. And if you have questions about those particular praxis tests, just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to give those to you.
Next, we have a question asking what questions are asked for the letters of recommendation. This person has an engineering background and is wondering how applicable their references would be.
Well, we get that, and it's okay. And sometimes people haven't been in school for 20 years or whatever, and we get that. So, and we the kinds of questions they ask are things like problem solving ability and things like that that are fairly generic and not necessarily specific to teaching per se. They ask them if you're, you know, about your writing skills and things like that. So, and they just do the best they can. I wouldn't sweat that a whole bunch. And we get that. Obviously, it's better to have people that have seen you work with kids, but it's not mandatory. The license officer, Olivia, is Di Murphy. I'll type that. I think her, I think I know her email off the top of my head. I think it's just DIM at ksu.edu. Brittany or Diane, can you double check that maybe when you have a chance? Oh, it's already there. Diane beat me to it. Um, so great. Next question.
If a person is going into secondary English, will they have to take courses that involve teaching other subjects such as math?
No, you don't. No, and that maybe that's disappointing to you, but no, we want you to know your subject area really well. And so, no, if you're secondary English language arts, there's plenty to learn in terms of English language arts. We don't need to add math on top of it. Elementary students do, you know, in addition to teaching kids how to blow their nose and line up for recess and play nice with one another's, you also have to know 4 sets of content standards: English language arts, science, mathematics, and social studies. So, but secondary, no, you just stay in your lane, so to speak.
Awesome. So, in regards to testing into a secondary subject after earning the elementary license, is that simply just taking a praxis subject area exam, such as like math
That's
or
all it is. That's
awesome?
all it is. And filling out any paperwork that the Kansas State Department of Education requires. But that's it. Simple as that.
How long do you suggest video responses being in the application?
Not long. 45 seconds to a minute. Do not fret about it at all.
Um, we have another question asking if they can text the phone number or your cell phone number as well, or just call.
Yeah, you can text, but I prefer email or just calling. I don't know if you can tell, but my kids make fun of my hands, small fingers like sausages that are not very text friendly. So um, I um, I prefer email or just talking on the phone.
Awesome. If someone's a full-time teacher, not a substitute or a para in the subject they're planning on teaching, how will student teaching hours work?
You will just do it in your classroom. It's that simple. You'll also have a cooperating teacher who oftentimes is your principal or department chair, depending upon how big the school is. But you just do it right there. Do it with your own kids. And if we have that pilot program for elementary teachers, you do the same thing. I mean, it's not. I'm gonna be honest. It's hard work, especially if this is your first year. If next year's your first year teaching and you're trying to do the MAT as well, it's possible. People do it every year. We have 20 people doing it right now, but it's hard work because it's hard work just being a first year teacher, let alone being a first year teacher and having some fairly heavy, especially fall load.
We have someone that would like to become an elementary PE teacher. Can they do their student teaching in PE? And how would they become a PE teacher after completing the program? Do they just take a praxis test for PE after completing the license for K through 6?
Great question. You take the praxis for physical education, and no, you can't student teach in PE. We're certifying that you can be a K through 6 teacher, so you have to student teach K through 6, and that's a regulation from the state that we can't compromise.
We have a question asking if there is no praxis test for their intended content area.
Wait a second. Hold it, hold the phone. Hold it. Are you talking about Japanese? Teaching Japanese?
No, the person is interested in teaching ASL,
ASL.
American Sign Language.
Oh, um, geez, I've never had that question before. Um, and I know we don't offer certification in that per se. And I'm not sure, Brittany or Diane, do you know if people can test into ASL?
That is, I think, the premise of the question. Say the person wants to do the elementary track, K
I,
through 6,
yeah,
and test up, but if there's no test,
email me and we'll find out an answer from Di Murphy. Or you can email Di Murphy directly, either way. Do you not know the answer? Never had that question in 5 years.
okie doke. Maybe just to
Teaching art, teaching art is like PE. You can take a praxis.
we have another question, just kind of a clarification on the admissions requirements.
Mhm.
They're asking, is the elementary track an option for people who don't have their undergrad in teaching?
Well, yeah, I mean, typically, almost all of our students, both elementary and secondary, do not have an undergraduate degree in teaching. Your undergraduate degree can be in anything, as long as it's from an accredited institution of higher education. It could be in, I don't know, biochemistry like my son, or microbiology like my daughter, or um, fine arts like my other daughter. And so it can be in anything. And so no, you don't have. And in fact, if you had a degree in teaching, the only way that it would make sense for you to do a Master of Arts in Teaching is if you are currently a secondary teacher, a licensed secondary teacher, and wanted to become an elementary teacher. It's weird, but you can go from elementary and test into any other secondary subject, but secondary teachers can't go the other way. You can't be a secondary teacher and test into other secondary subjects, or be a secondary teacher and test into elementary. Weird, but true.
Awesome. Well, it looks like that is, those are most of our questions for tonight. If you had a question that maybe we didn't get to, or something comes up in the future, you can always feel free to reach out to either myself or Diane or Dr. Vance, and we'll be happy to help you out. Um, I want to thank Dr. Vance for that wonderful presentation and thank everyone for joining us here tonight. If you're ready to apply, please visit our website at online.ksu.edu and select how to apply for detailed instructions. As a reminder, everyone who is registered for this webinar will be receiving a recording via email as soon as it's available. Additionally, we also want to be sure to let everyone know that we do have application fee waivers available for those who attended this webinar. So feel free to reach out to us at online@ksu.edu when you are ready to apply, and we'll be happy to provide you with a code. And as I mentioned, if you have any additional questions that we didn't cover tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And you can always call or email me about anything, and you can do it in the evening or on the weekends or whenever. And if I'm busy, and to be honest with you, I'm rarely ever busy. My wife and I are empty nesters. Although my daughter did just come home from LSU last night, so that's nice. But I'm rarely ever busy, other than my wife and I watching the latest binge watching the latest episodes that we find on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. So I'll be happy to talk to you. I really, teaching is such an awesome thing. I'm 55 years old and I've been a teacher for a long time, and I still enjoy teaching. I still enjoy the challenge of thinking about organizing classes and maximizing learning and helping students grow. And and I love my job as a teacher educator to help other people share in that kind of passion and enthusiasm. And we would love to have you at Kansas State University. And I can promise you that we'll deliver a high quality program, and will be accessible, and we'll individualize and tailor things to you, especially through your assigned teaching assistant. And we look forward to seeing your application. And we review applications on a rolling basis. So the sooner you apply, the sooner you'll know about your acceptance. But we don't have any. It's not like, we're only going to take 250. We won't take 300 or whatever. That we don't we're a land grant state institution, and our responsibility is to help people achieve their dreams. So I guess if you want to think about it the right, I guess we're dream makers. That's what we do. Diane, Brittany, is that who we are? We're dream makers.
That sounds great.
Okay, all right. Enough's enough. I'll talk to everyone from Wamigo. This is Tom Vance signing off, and thanks again to everybody that made it on the webinar this evening. I look forward to talking with you and working with you. And from Wamigo, Kansas, Tom Vance bidding you a fond farewell.